Is there anybody pointed to that I can?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Yesterday, there was a lawsuit filed in response to the pending legislation. There will be undoubtedly additional lawsuits filed against California. The Attorney General has already needed to request emergency funding to pay for the litigation. Do you anticipate needing to come back and ask for additional funding for the litigation? And if so, do you expect that in this normal budget year or budget cycle, or is it going to be an emergency ask?
I think similar to the funds we gave to the Attorney General during the special session at the beginning of this year that have returned billions of dollars back to California at the expense of only $50 million investments that we spend protecting ourselves from this hostile administration pay back several times over.
So you believe that that funding will be used in the lawsuits to fight this, and no more additional funds are going to be allocated towards that?
I believe that the Attorney General's office, both now and under the previous Trump administration, has been wildly successful fighting the unconstitutionality.
I'm asking for the funds. I'm asking for the funds.
May I finish talking?
Well, I've only got 5 minutes, so I'm asking for the funds. I'm not asking how good they are.
If you can let him respond, that'd be great.
Reclaiming my time.
5 minutes. I think we're on the opposite ends. I have to reclaim. I just need the funds portion. Do you believe that there's going to be a budget ask now or later?
I believe that any investment we make in the Attorney General's office yields back several times over more resources back to California.
I'm not talking about how good they are. I'm talking about, do they need more money?
Mr. Tugba, I think he's answered your question.
Okay.
Next question, please.
Will litigation costs be tracked and reported separately so taxpayers can see the true cost of this measure?
I think any time that public dollars are spent, it is always in a transparent way, and the Attorney General's office has been incredibly transparent in how they use those litigation dollars to fight to return dollars back to California.
It's estimated that this special election will cost $235 million to complete. Is the appropriation for this special election ultimately going to come from the general fund, all while the LAO has already highlighted to us structural deficits and a projected budget shortfall next year ranging in between $10 and $30 billion?
I can tell you it's not going to come from the $80 billion that Californians pay to subsidize this corrupt administration that has been held hostage from the people of our state.
The rural counties I represent are feeling heavy budget pressure. Our counties can't afford to foot the bill up front for this special election. Is the plan to provide them full upfront costs of the election, or are we going to reimburse them post-election?
I imagine there's a lot of economic insecurity in rural counties, especially when $100 billion has gone into ICE enforcement that has destabilized our agricultural economy and many sectors of our state. I think those resources could definitely be spent in a better way.
Isaac, I've got a rural county that has 3 people that work.
Assemblymember Bryan, sir.
Please defer to him by Assemblymember Bryan, please.
Or the member from Los Angeles.
Sorry about that. I'm still learning.
I know.
The state has a long history, really, of creating mandates that are supposed to be funded. My big worry on this is that there's so many unfunded mandates and money actually doesn't get back to them. What guarantees do we provide that to make sure that this won't happen, so those counties that are trying to operate in the state of California, to make sure that they're made whole?
The only money that's not getting back to us, not to the fire-torn areas of Los Angeles, not to our Head Start programs, not to our healthcare infrastructure, not to our agricultural economy, is the $80 billion in federal taxes that we paid, that we have asked for back in emergency times, that the federal government has used as leverage and held hostage and subsidized their plans, including the plans that are happening in Texas right now.
I think it's sad right now that I'm asking very fiscally appropriate questions in the Appropriations Committee, and I haven't gotten a single answer on how the money is going to get there, how much money is actually needed, and where are the cost estimates. All I'm asking for is, can we do this, and do we have funds with a projected deficit next year?
So,
and we're saying...
And sorry, we also have Department of Finance here who can weigh in as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, members. My name is Christian Beltran. I am with the Department of Finance, and thank you, Assemblymember Tanyapa, for the questions. Just to clarify, the language does specify that the Department of Finance will continue to work with the Secretary of State's office as well as our county partners to ensure that funding for this election will be made in advance to the election. So we will continue to ensure that counties, particularly your counties as well, will be made whole and not have to cut any additional funding to public safety programs or any other kind of healthcare programs.
Does the Department of Finance next year also expect an estimated and agree with the LAO's analysis that there's a structural deficit next year?
I think we can all agree that we are not in the best budget situation, given federal pressures and given other kind of hostile acts that we are seeing from the federal government, and therefore we are continuing to plan for the worst, and we do have projections that are consistent with the LAO. However, we would just encourage the legislature to understand that the Department of Finance will continue to work with the partners that we have both on the state and federal levels to ensure we are continuing to get as much funding as possible.
So
and sorry, your 5 minutes is up. This is your last question.
Okay. We have in front of us many questions that need to be answered because it's fiscally responsible here in the state of California. We are elected in the state of California to get our budget right. That is not happening right now. We know that. But we need to make sure that the right people are here, because that was my first question. Who should I point the financial questions to? And you said you were ready. It doesn't seem like it. But what we need to know right now is who drew the maps, who got paid, who didn't go on vacation, who is involved in this, and who has a vested interest in all of this money being allocated. That is very important. That is the number one question everybody is asking. Can somebody, anybody tell us definitively, whether it's leadership, whether it's the DCC, whether it's Paul Mitchell, whether it's special interests, who got paid to draw the maps and who is doing this, and did they register under the state of California to make sure that they can do this? Answer the question.
Mr. Bryan, would you like to address that, and then we'll move on to other members?
Sure, I'm happy to. And I appreciate you still learning which committee does what, because you started out understanding this is a fiscal committee and then went straight into your partisan BS, and that's perfectly fine. These maps were drawn in collaboration between many stakeholders, including experts who have been drawing lines for multiple municipalities for over 100 different jurisdictions across California and beyond. It was in collaboration with the legislature.
Who are those many individuals and how much did they get paid?
We're allowing Mr. Isaac Bryan to.
It was also in collaboration with the 10,000 comments that were submitted to the Independent Redistricting Commission, which is why nearly 80% of this map mirrors the map before. Let's also be very clear. The person who drew this map is the authoritarian in the White House who called for destruction of the foundations of our democracy by clawing back 5 seats that don't belong to him in Texas and forcing the people of California to respond. The people of California will draw this map on November when they have their voice heard. The legislature does not draw or implement these maps. The people get the final voice, and the maps will change not even a little bit unless they say so in November, and I believe strongly that they will.
Well, we should know who
Mr.
paid
Mr.
to prepare
Tongaba.
you, because
Mr.
that's all we
Tongaba,
got. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Still learning those rules.
Any other questions from members on the committee?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I rise in strong support of ACA 8. And like at least 2/3 of you in this room, I read the constitutional amendment, which makes it very clear that we are not approving any maps in this body. We are giving the voters the decision, something that isn't happening in Texas. And even doing that was something we had to debate fiercely. California's responsibility to Californians and Californians' responsibility to this country. We didn't want to be in this situation. The authoritarian in the White House put us in this situation when he used House Republicans in Texas to disenfranchise vulnerable people. After those maps in Texas are approved, a Latino voice in Texas is worth 1/3 of the representation as a white voice. A black voter in Texas is worth 1/5 of the representation of a white voter in Texas. I didn't say 3/5. There was no compromise. I said 1/5. That is the kind of gerrymandering, that is the kind of theft that they are perpetuating. And we can't just sit by and let it happen. We won't just sit by and let it happen. But that doesn't mean we lose ourselves. That's why when I was chair of the Elections Committee, I authored an update to the Fair Maps Act that prevented incumbency from being a consideration in map drawing, and every single Republican on this floor voted against it. That's why I authored legislation calling for independent redistricting commissions on school boards and counties and special districts all throughout the state, and every Republican in this House voted against it. How convenient to switch your tone when you are now on the line. When we are stepping up and speaking the way Californians deserve for us to stand up and fight, because we are tired of being the punching bag of this country. When we freely give, when North Carolina is on fire, we show up. When a hurricane hits Florida, we show up. When Texas is flooding, we show up. We don't wait for Canada and Mexico to show up first, like Texas did supporting Los Angeles this year. We come immediately. When we pay $80 billion more in federal taxes than we get back, we don't complain. We know our role is to support others. And when the biggest disaster to ever hit our state hits and we ask for a portion of our own dollars back and you withhold it, we have to change our tone. We have to step up because your silence is deafening. When they took health care and food and veterans assistance and they made it harder for students to go to college and they put trillions of dollars in national debt and you said nothing, that forced us to step into the void. When they held our #1 public university hostage for $1 billion of California tax dollars and you have said nothing, we had to step into that void. You talk about fighting fire with fire and how we shouldn't do that. While simultaneously a member of your own caucus just yesterday asked the Department of Justice and Pam Biondi to investigate us criminally. I took that personally that you didn't say anything. We are not just going to sit by and let our democracy crumble. Here in California, we're standing on business. And I respectfully ask for your aye vote.